During the last few weeks in my master's program, I looked at the energy justice implications of renewable energy for remote farms and in particular wind energy. I chose this topic because it is related to the wind turbine from the Just Energy Hub, which was donated by Eastern Wind Power. Before we start, I will let Linda share a few words on the aspiration of the Just Energy Hub.
Really, this aspiration has come out of the collaboration between myself and Claire Rogers and Chevy Genka, Erica. So sitting together and also having visited the HARS and finding out what their aspirations were. So it's after we visited them and looked at the equipment and thought through what would be possible. And what we concluded is that we're interested in moving in the direction of our commitments around a just transition to a regenerative economy. And, the principles of justice require that we begin with those who've been most marginalized from the current system. So our aspiration for the hub is to create a resource for us to learn together how to move in the direction of a just transition.
Okay, so Linda says that the main aspiration is a just transition toward a regenerative economy. The field of energy justice is huge and can only be artificially divided. In the case of this video, I use a framework suggested by my sustainable energy instructor, Roman Sidortsov. I'd adapted it to represent that distribution, procedures, and awareness are not separate goals, but all serve the main aspiration to work towards a regenerative world. I see this point as important because it is easy to say, okay, I want more distribution of resources, and I create a system that increases the distribution of resources so more people have energy, because I see it as a problem that people don't have energy. But essentially, I'm not making sure that this new system is of regenerative nature, because I problematize the distribution of resources in my head. This might sound a little confusing, so I will show you another short interview with Linda on this topic. Is the Just Energy Hub a problem-solving organization?
My friend Roger says problems are not naturally occurring, like they don't exist in nature. Problems are socially constructed, and so are we here to do that, to actually address the things that we've created from the mind of the mind that created it? No, it's not likely to work out. So our intent is not to solve a problem. Our intent is to serve a shared future that we want to bring forth. So we don't focus on the problem because that's likely to actually amplify the presenting problem. Because the thought that it's a problem is what produced the problem. So the thought that it's a problem in the United States that we don't have electricity everywhere, so we're going to develop the country and put infrastructure everywhere, that produced what we have now. That is, problematizing the way of life that existed in the undeveloped continent, and then going forth in a colonizing way. And if we attempted to basically go and say, oh, okay, we see we have a problem here that remote folks don't have access to this grid. Well, it doesn't question whether or not there should be a grid.
Maybe it is confusing to have a video about energy justice that questions if there should be a grid. But it seems to become clear that the poor distribution of certain resources to, for instance, indigenous communities is not the problem of the energy grid, but the phenomenon of a system that has historically marginalized certain people and excluded certain people from decision-making processes. A while ago, I created this framework which shows the emergence of a regenerative, balanced ecosystem. In the right corner, for instance, you can see inclusive governance, which would be a form of procedural intervention to create the conditions for a regenerative system. But again, the underlying idea here is that we are creating conditions to let emerge something that is close to our collective vision and not just to reduce the problems that we see. With these ideas in mind, I will share where I see areas of opportunity for more energy justice. However, I want to emphasize that these visions are my visions and that for any just project, I would not start with my own vision, but see what other people need and see if we can work together. Thus, I want to start with the areas of recognition, which I see as things that are important to recognize. The image I drew about the remote farm that I envisioned is a little risky because, as you can see here kind of in the middle, all efforts, I think, start with community building. They don't start with having an idea in mind by myself, but going to a community and connecting with the community without a transactional idea in mind, without the idea that we will eventually work on this project. It also seems important to recognize again that the OWN community and the Just Energy Hub community currently needs to unlearn the practices of domination and learn about collaboration. Furthermore, a transition is inevitable, but justice is not. This is a quote from the Climate Justice Alliance, which points at the idea that we will eventually transition towards a renewable future where there is more technology that doesn't use fossil fuels, but it is not certain that this future will be just. Justice is not certain for many reasons, but some of those are that building renewable technology and technology in general creates a lot of mining waste, uses exploitative manufacturing systems, and requires a whole bunch of resources. Now let's switch to the procedural opportunities. Communities may decide energy prices and shape energy systems collectively. In terms of the procedure of the Just Energy Hub would need to make sure that local communities decide what they need, which might not necessarily be energy technology, but other forms of support. Once it gets more technical and the energy systems are being designed, they should be designed in conjunction with those using them. On a higher level, the Just Energy Hub should need to make sure that it practices transparency around the shortcomings of its projects. For instance, waste of manufacturing processes or unknown working conditions abroad. The procedure of decision making could be informed by low hierarchy decision making or democracy. And members of the Just Energy Hub may learn how to unlearn and contemplate their own mental models. Let's now quickly jump to distribution opportunities. The Just Energy Hub has the option to share all the intellectual property rights as open source content online because all the property rights were donated by Eastern Wind Power. When this information is shared freely, other co-ops and organizations can work together if they have similar aligned goals. Through an online presence, resources can be shared and doors can be open for collaboration with other communities. Some of my intervention ideas are summarized in this graphic. I hope this video gave you an idea of the potential interventions in this field and also the deeper approach to working towards a just transition and a regenerative economy. Thank you.